So interesting on so many levels, Heidi. Trying to think of where to begin. First of all, I think the hold that the Clintons have on Democrats is over, and I mentioned that on Friday. I think people are feeling like they finally can speak their minds about it all, but they didn't for a long time. And she said something so interesting. She said behaviors that were tolerated years ago, 10, 20 years ago, or allowed 20 years ago, they're not being tolerated today. So what do we do with accusers who are who are being accused of things 10, 20 years ago? Because Bill Clinton, as far as I know, is still making money.
Of course, that's the great irony here, is that you have people now asking the question of whether we would be having this conversation had Hillary Clinton won, because people like Kirsten Gillibrand may have been more cowed into drawing those comparisons and saying, hey, if this had happened in the current atmosphere, in the current day, it would not be acceptable. And so we would be having the conversation in the sense that Donald Trump was elected, and we all know his history. But in terms of people actually speaking out in the Democratic Party and saying, hey, if we're going to have this conversation, we need to look at our own house too, and we need to look at the things that were tolerated 20 years ago that today, if this had happened, we would need to be out front and calling it out. And that's I think what she's doing. And it's particularly notable, Mika, because the Clintons have been such strong supporters of her. But I think she is also drawing that distinction that this is a cultural shift. And that we know about a lot of things that happened, for example, in previous presidencies with mistresses and kind of sexual, dalliances, that in the current environment wouldn't be accepted. And it's just it's a sign of the changing times and the changing culture and what society finds acceptable.
Yeah. Mike Barnacle.
Well, it would appear to a neutral observer that Senator Gillibrand's comments about former President Clinton are largely political. She's thinking of running for president. It was a good political move on her part. It was. I agree with that. But we've also, I think, unfortunately, slowly slid culturally into a moment when forgiveness is now married to ideology.
Yeah.
You know, that if you're a conservative and you do certain things, then if I'm a liberal, oh, shame on you, get him out or get her out. If you're a conservative and, Bill Clinton, or Al Franken, get him out or get her out.
So a couple of things. I think that there are things that were accepted 10 or 20 years ago. There are situations I have been in that I accepted 10 or 20 years ago. It was part for the norm, and it's why we're having this conversation. And that's why I'm confused when you have accusers right now talking about things 10 or 20 years ago that are holding some people to a very different standard than people like Bill Clinton. And did they vote for Hillary Clinton? And I disagree with you, Mike Barnacle. I don't think this is political on Kirsten Gillibrand's part. I think she's looking at the entire picture here. And one of the reasons why we, and I mean me and Kirsten Gillibrand Democrats, lost is because Bill Clinton's behavior was accepted, it was pushed under the rug, and even women defended him.
He was impeached.
And women who accused him, I know, but he continues to flourish today. And his wife ran for president, even though these women who accused him were attacked in the media, were maligned, or settled. And that's a different standard that we're holding other people who are accused of the same behavior or less worse today. And this